Every single day, people take unwanted or unused items to thrift and antique stores across the country. But as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and we're here to prove it. Identify valuable things before you throw them away. Join us as we show and tell of treasures found and sold by a full-time reseller with the hopes of helping you find some treasures of your own. Welcome to the What's Sold podcast.
Welcome back to the What's Sold podcast. I am Brandon. This is Matt. We were just waxing philosophically about sometimes business is hard, and that even when things are going great, those of you that are out there and you're crushing it, you are going to have moments where it's not so great. And to keep it all in perspective, that it's going to be an average, right? We hope that the average is a little above, not a little behind, but that it's an average.
Right. There's this TV show I've heard about. I've not watched it, but the premise is that for some reason, these workers are disconnected from the other part of their life. So when they're at work, they're only thinking about work. It's called Severance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've not watched it, but I'd be curious if they had a character doing this that gets called from the school because their kid is sick and they have to somehow switch, or say they work from home and they have to have their kid there. How does that work? Because I'll tell you, I'm not disconnected. And we were talking pre-production about how it can be one of the difficulties in work sometimes when you work for yourself is that other things in life will interfere. And I say that not in a super negative way, but other things will pop up that require your attention. And now you're in a position where you're having to do multiple things simultaneously. And I would say I can certainly I wear several hats. I can do more than one thing at a time. I'm not going to be optimal. It's, not peak efficiency when I do that. And it also can add a little bit of stress. So between me having some illnesses, kids picking up things, having to take them to appointments, the trash company not coming for 5 consecutive weeks to pick up trash. So this morning I had to drive my vehicle full of trash to a transfer station and pay $12 to dump it. And I spoke with the man there, and he said, yeah, I'm hearing this a lot. He said, I've had easily over 500 customers complaining that this new trash company is not picking up their trash. So, when you have things like that, it makes what should be straightforward tasks easy. And the tasks that I have to do aren't any more difficult when that stuff's happening. It's just that I've added more tasks to my plate, right? So now, I got to stop this, because my son needs me to make him lunch.
Yeah.
Right? He needs to eat. So work goes away for a little bit. And then when I try to step back in, it's Dad, can you read this? Or Dad, can you? And it's great. I love being able to spend this time with my kids. But it's also double-edged because I don't want my kids being like, yeah, Dad was around, but he was never really around,
Right.
He was always working. And I don't want that to be the vibe I'm giving off either. So it's tricky. It's tricky.
Well, owning your own business is tough. I mean, it's, again, a lot of the people that listen to us are probably part-timers. So, but I'm sure everybody can relate with working. If you ever work for yourself, it's like saving. Like, you don't want to save just enough. You need to save a little bit more for a rainy day or whatever else. It's the same with when you work. It's like, I know that things are going to come up in the day that I did not anticipate. And then there will be that day where nothing comes up and I'm like, what do I do? I write down a list of things to do every day. And then when that happens, I go back to the list and say, what have I been like sort of holding off on because I've been so busy with other things. There is a deal, audience, that you can help Cousin Rusty so that he is not constantly going crazy. He needs an assistant.
Some free childcare out there?
Yeah, he needs an assistant, and there's no question about it. The only way he can get that assistant is if this show grows and becomes the star show that it can
That's
be.
Right.
So
That's
make sure you tell your friends.
I like the guilt trip intro into that.
Oh, yes.
We're going to be passively making you feel bad, if you don't do something.
Well, to be fair, we haven't done a Patreon account. We haven't done any of the things that other podcasts have done.
And this is actually a really good point that I'm going to point out, not because anyone needs to hear it or cares, but this is me just sort of, I'm giving you the real me. And that is that when you're doing things like this, when you're producing media, whether it's a podcast, definitely true of the YouTube world, you can't necessarily know the best thing to do that's going to translate to the most amount of money, which is why most people do YouTube. Some of it's just vanity; they want to be seen, but also most of the time it's just they want to earn some money. And you can't know for sure what it is, but you can get a very good idea by seeing channels that have huge numbers, millions of subscribers, and look at what they're doing. In the niche that I'm in, which is reselling stuff, if you go find the channels of resellers, what you're going to find is these larger-than-life kind of personalities. Not characters per se, but they've been given freedom to be more more hardcore, charismatic in the way that they are. And you're going to see a lot of, I'm at a yard sale, I'm in the store, and I'm finding this thing that is only $5, and I'm going to make $2,000 off of it. And that's exciting. The idea of finding a treasure is super cool, right? We all think that's anybody who is interested in history or that stuff sounds great, but that's not real life. Have I found things before that are worth way more than I pay for them? Sure. But in order to do that, unless you're just incredibly lucky, you have to be out different places multiple times a week, every week, and be armed with the knowledge of what you're looking at and knowing the value of it. So if I wanted to go on and be crazy and strap a GoPro to my chest and manufacture these pretend scores, which in some cases, maybe they are finding them, but there is no way, folks, that these people are hitting these huge things one after another. It's not real life. It's geared towards entertainment and to sucking you in. And the thing is, we don't have a Patreon account, like you mentioned. I'm giving away free information, and I'm going to get on here and tell you when eBay's ticking me off. And I'm going to show you the $10 items that I sold, because that's more common than selling a $1,000 item or finding that for a cheap amount. I'm going to give it to you real. The small business, it is difficult. It has its challenges. It's a job like anything else. There's good and bad. And I'm not making up your mind for you. I'm simply going to present my actual true experience. You can decide if it's something that you want to do. But I think the frustrations that maybe I elaborate sometimes are just sort of cautions for you to know these are things that you could or may encounter. And knowing that ahead of time, you're in a better spot than getting into it and be like, whoa, what's this? What's happening to me?
Yeah, absolutely.
I could get on. There's things that I am not willing to do personally. You have a conversation about politicians, people a lot of the time, it will come up that, anyone who gets to that level has to be a little crazier. Anybody who gets to that level has to have compromised or given in. And at a certain point, there are people who, they don't really care what they do. They just want to be as successful as possible. And I'm not saying this applies to all politicians, but it's just like someone tells you, hey, here are the 10 things you can do. This one thing is going to be the most successful thing. And they don't even look at it. They're just like, okay, great. That's what I'm doing now. You see it in YouTube. You see it in other arenas. I'm just not like that. There are certain things that I'm just like, yeah, okay, that may be the most successful. I'm not going to do that. So, here we are. We're going the route we're going. It's fine. I would like to think that eventually with hard work and giving good content that there will be some success out of that. But I don't plan on changing necessarily my strategy. Sorry that we're not, sorry that we're not Mr. Beast or whatever. Doing this crazy YouTube thing. He's from North Carolina, as a matter of fact, as well.
And he makes billions of dollars, and yet he has, there's been nothing but controversy swirling around Mr. Beast for the last year or two. I think that both you and I would love to carve out an existence, a financial existence that makes it so we can continue to do this because we love to do it.
Yeah.
But without becoming too famous.
I don't need people to know me.
Yeah.
You can know Rusty. That's fine.
Absolutely. And if they show up on the street saying, Rusty, you go, I don't know what you're talking about. So you've got an alter ego. I don't even have an alter ego. But nobody wants to find me out there.
But your thing is that when you're in the arena in the wrestling match, instead of coming down like the promenade and like the church, you are lowered from the roof. No one knows you're Moondog. Okay, you're up there and you're just lowered down.
At
a certain point, you cut the cord and you just fall right on your opponent.
I feel like I come in on a parachute. I feel like I would be dropped out of an airplane.
Yeah, like one of those flying squirrel situations where skydivers do that.
Where you just slam into the ring.
That's right.
It is lifeless.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I oftentimes think about the people that have reached out to us on the show, and there have been a number But I think about like Yvette, who is building this little thing, wants to retire. That's the people we're speaking to. Mary, other people, Mary who came on the show, and Mary who's written to us. People that are out there that are just normal people trying to make a little bit of money selling stuff.
Yeah.
And we hope it would be fantastic if people turn this into a career. But we're not going to lie to you and tell you that it's easy.
Right.
I'm a small business owner. Matt's a small business owner. It's a challenge. I mean, I'm doing my taxes right now, and I'm like, I want to rip my hair out by the roots. And I'm paying somebody to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm still just like, oh my God, the collection.
Yeah.
So there is this stuff that happens on there. And now, right now, I can hear whoever that was, Troll Dog 74, getting mad that we're not. Why don't you two stop talking?
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was going to pop in and say, hey, by the way, for those who don't want to hear us talking about silly stuff about ourselves, just fast forward the first 11 minutes. Go ahead and do that.
We literally
now.
put chapters on there.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
We put chapters on there. So
I understand.
anyway, well, we are stoked to be here. We have. It's funny. I've been thinking about this topic for a long time. We sort of touched on it maybe, almost a year ago. Matt had gone out to Oakland, and he'd gone to a giant flea market that I've actually been to. And there are a couple of huge flea markets in the Bay Area of California. And I think there's a big flea market, I want to say down near Greenville, South Carolina.
Pickens.
And
there's one in Pickens, South Carolina.
Fascinated by it. I'm completely afraid of them.
Okay.
I feel like I might get fleas. It feels like a little bit of a carnival. Feels like there's just a lot of stuff going on there. But I actually wonder, is it really people selling stuff and buying stuff? So Matt is going to take us on a tour of what it's like to go to a flea market as a professional seller. What are you looking for? What are you not looking for? What to be aware of? And kind of what gems are you looking for at the flea market?
Okay, so I need to ask a clarification question first.
Sure.
What you kind of described are these outdoor sort of flea markets, which is a very different beast, very different animal from what people think of like thrift store, which would be a Goodwill type thing or something smaller that's in a local community. So what do you want me to...
I'm talking flea market, baby. Out in there.
The big
outdoor thing. Everybody's got, they got these kiosks, these stalls. You got a dude selling out of the back of his, station wagon.
Mm-hmm.
I've just often wondered, is there anything worth buying there? Is it worth dealing with it? So as resellers, we would go in there and would say, well, we're not going to buy anything we can't resell for more money. Mm-hmm. So is it worth going into? So I'd love to hear your experience with flea markets. Mm-hmm. What have you found them to be positive? Do you go to them? I mean, what's the story, Morning Glory? That's what I want to know.
Well, I've had a mixed experiences. So they can be a little bit, I don't know if scary would be the right word, but when you walk up to something that's so massive, you can certainly be a little apprehensive.
Scared.
Okay, well, some people are scared. I appreciate your bravery of being honest about being scared.
Oh, I just don't go because I'm too afraid.
It's especially funny because you're not like a small person. Like you could be a bouncer, like...
Yeah, I have been a bouncer. I can handle myself in a scrap for sure, but...
You just have a soft side, a kind heart.
I think it's just overwhelming. I think
is.
That's what it is for me when I get overwhelmed in anything. It's just, my wife will tell you, just like, it just stresses me out. Yeah. And that's one of the, I love that idea of it. I do. I love the idea of kind of going and strolling. It always feels like if I go around the wrong corner, somebody, like those old time 40 movies where that dude had like a truncheon, like this thing where he'd whack you over the head and rob you. I always feel like that's going to happen to me when I go to a flea market.
Sure. I think the thing that would make me nervous, it would be to be a seller at one of those, because, and I'll explain that in a moment. I'll get back to that. But my experiences with these outdoor large markets, so there are some that are permanent sort of fixtures in an area, and they operate either every day or most days during the week. And what's there, who's there changes all the time, because the way that it works is you arrive really early in the morning and there's a set fee for what you pay to sell on a table or a section that's already there. And you pull up with your vehicle, you can back up to it, and it's like $15 or $20 for a table or $50, whatever it is, and you can get maybe an unlimited number, or maybe you can get a maximum of 3. And so you pay and you start to unload your trailer or your vehicle on all this stuff as people are coming up. And people will get there early with flashlights in the dark, and they're already ready to look at your items, want to wheel and deal, okay? Then there are others that happen, let's say, once a year or twice a year, and they might pop up in like a grocery store parking lot, like a parking lot of some area, or maybe it's something that happens annually in your town. Some of those types of things are going to be less junky and less antique-y. So if it's something that's in your town, it's more likely going to be things like local artists, people who make jewelry, woodworkers, things like that, crafty things, trinket things, but things that have been created in the last, let's say, decade.
Yeah. So interestingly, very early on in the life of this show, Matt sent me to one of these outdoor events. He's like, hey, this is a swap. It's going to be great. We're going to go to it. I think I'm going to get some big purchases. I want you there. I want you to see how the magic happens. I'm like,
yeah,
sweet. So it's like on a 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, some crazy thing in this giant parking lot. I drive in there and I'm like, looking around, where's Cousin Rusty? Where's Matt? He must be wheeling a deal. He must be making money somewhere in this, because that's how he rolls. So I couldn't. I walked the whole thing, and I was frightened, as I want to be in these events.
Yeah.
I can't find you, so I text. I'm like, hey Matt, where are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm at home. I said to stay home and watch cartoons. I just didn't feel like going. I'm like, what?
That sounds
you sent me
just
into the heart
like
of darkness.
me.
But actually, you did have something
Right.
come up, and I remember going, man.
Bummer.
I don't even
Did
know
you
what
buy
I'm
anything?
doing here. You know, it was a swap, so I don't think it was sort of what you're talking about in terms of people setting it. It felt like people were kind of cleaning out their sheds, not even their attics, just the old shed. And they found like a dusty something, and they threw it on a table and wanted you to buy it. That's what it felt like to me. I'm sure if I knew what I was looking for, I might have found good things.
Okay. So going back to kind of my differences between the two, if you have something that's more art, craft stuff, that's not usually the kind of place that you negotiate for a price. The prices are typically there, unless there's some sort of other thing that says something like you get a discount with a quantity, if you buy, or all this section is on sale, yada, yada. But the thing that you're asking about, I think, are these fixtures that are kind of always there. And so it can be it could be literally anything. It could be antiques. It could be newer stuff. But you don't usually see artists out there trying to like, hey, I'm a potter and here's a bunch of mugs or things that I've made. You don't usually see that. What I see a lot of time are a lot of old rusty tools that came out of someone's toolbox out of there that have been in it rusting for 20 or 30 years. I see kind of beat up instruments. I'll see a bunch of toys, stuff that people went to Goodwill all week long buying these things for 50 cents, $1, $2, and then they come and throw them on this table hoping to make more. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Also, depending on the type of place and how kind of shady it is.
Wait, can I interrupt you before you go on for that? Because what's the psychology behind that? I mean, it's like, that seems like a lot of work to go to Goodwill to find these chintzy items to go sell. How much money could you make at this as a reseller? I mean, is there money to be made doing that?
If you go to a thrift store that have bundles of toys, let's say, like a bag of 30 action figures for $10, and then you go to the flea market and you pull them all out and you say, these are all $5 a piece, and when someone buys 2 of them, you've made your money back. Yeah, it's possible to make money. Clothing is the other thing. I mean, people have stocked up on all of the donations of clothing. I mean, there are people who got clothing, and then go to Smiley. They got it for free. They go to Smiley's, which is one local to us, and they'll try to sell them. Maybe someone's like, hey, I've got a bunch of kids' clothes that I don't need. They put it on Facebook Marketplace. People will get on Facebook Marketplace just combing it for free stuff. They'll get free stuff all week long, and then they'll go and try to sell it and make money on it. They're only out their gas and their time. But if that's what they do, that's what they do. So not everybody does that. A lot of people do have things. They need a little extra money, so they go out to the barn and they grab a few things and they go out there. Or they inherited some stuff, so like, well, I'll go out. However, you will from time to time have people who stole things And because they don't want to get caught going into a pawn shop or going
Yikes.
into another place, they'll go and they'll try to, sell it there quickly. I can't tell you the number of stories I've heard of something getting stolen. The next day, the cops go to Smiley's. Here's the culprit. They're here trying to sell it right now.
Really?
Yeah, that happens. So I don't want to scare people. It's not every place is like that. There are more reputable places. There are places that police it. And I know that there is a police presence at that one as well. So they walk around. I think that they try, right? They try to, but if it's someone who just rolls in and puts $15 down and is like, this is my table, and you just take the cash and you walk to the next person, like there's not a lot of regulation there. Okay. So that can be good and bad. It can be bad in the sense that you could be trying to buy stolen goods and not know it. However, if there's not a lot of regulation, somebody could walk in with something terribly valuable. I mean, people are sometimes selling firearms there, things that there's a gray area legally with some of those things. Yeah, so you just really never know. So I think the thing with those outdoor flea markets is they are intriguing because there are people who know exactly what they have, and the things that they have are not worth anything. Then sometimes you have people who come out, they just got a bunch of stuff and they don't really know what the value is. That's where someone like me will come away with something that I can sell and make money on. But the downside there is that you could kind of feel, I mean, depending on what kind of person you are, you could feel a little bit bad that you're taking advantage of them because they came out. I mean, you're going to pay the price that they offer, but at the same time, they just don't realize that this is a bunch of gold jewelry that you want to sell me in this bag for $10. Like I kind of feel like I need to say, this bag's worth $1,000. You know what I mean? Because these are just people like you and me. It's not like you're walking into an antique store where they've done their quote unquote research. They've priced it. They've had ample opportunity to research and know what they have, and they put it in. If they make a mistake, maybe I get to take advantage of that situation. Or maybe they know full well and they don't care. They just want to sell it quickly. Yeah, I never know what the intention behind the salespeople are typically. But someone who goes into a market like that, they're wanting to come away with money that day. That's why they're there. They don't want to pay a fee to an antique store to have a booth every month and worry that they're not going to make enough to cover their overhead. They want to go in and they want to wheel and deal, and they want to come home with, half of what they had and have money. So that kind of brings up the next thing. This is not my ideal place to buy items because what is expected there, both from the seller and the buyer, is to negotiate. And I've said multiple times on this podcast, what I like to do is go to local places time and time again, make relationships with the people and give them good prices. I don't haggle people, and it turns into other opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise. Mm-hmm. So if I go in and I don't personally enjoy the process of being like, oh, you have $50 on this, how about $5? And then they'd be like, get out of here. And then you walk away and you come back and you're like, okay, 10, but it's not even worth that. I'll be doing you a favor. And then they're like, I don't like that. To me, it just makes me feel icky. I don't want to feel like like a shady trader character. Yeah, exactly. So I don't spend a lot of time with those. The other thing is, if you show up on a day where a bunch of people showed up that don't have anything worth anything, you're going to walk around for an hour, 2, 3 hours and come away empty-handed. Yeah. And, my time is worth more than that to me. I need to, nothing in life is a guarantee, but I want to have a pretty good idea ahead of time that there's a good chance I'm going to find something that I can turn around and sell.
Well, I'm assuming, too, that the majority of people that go to the flea market are just people that are looking for a good deal on something that, like, oh, I found a shovel for $5, and it was, might have been $10 somewhere else or something. But as a reseller, it seems like the margins would be way too slim. Is that fairly accurate?
If it's one of those that is a little bit nicer, then usually they're priced above what I could pay. I could buy it on eBay for less. But some of these ones where it's random people, they could be coming from anywhere, they could be bringing anything, you can find deals. However, this is another annoying thing about those, and another reason why I don't do them a lot, is that if you want to get the good deals, you had better get there super early. It's kind of like the garage sale. Right? They'll post pictures of the stuff that they have. They're like, we're opening at 8. Don't come before 8. We're not going to open before 8. You get there at 8 o'clock, you're the first one in line. You go look around and you're like, where are the watches that I saw? And you go up to and you go, hey, I came for the watches. I got here early. Where are they? Like, oh, somebody got here at 7:30. And they said, and we just, we said, well, we'll sell them. Like, what? So that's the deal.
Yeah.
If you want to get the good deal, you got to get there an hour or two before you're supposed to. And you have a flashlight and you're walking around and you have to kind of, as people are emptying their vehicles, they're not even ready yet. You have to be like, hey, can I look at this? And that's not how I like to do business. So I don't do that a lot. I know if I'm going to go to a yard sale that you got to get there earlier because there are always people. There are people who call the night before. They call them or they contact them and say, hey, yeah, I know you got this tomorrow, but I'm interested in lots of these things and I'm available tonight, really anytime you want. I'll come, and they'll harass. I say harass. They will communicate with these people and it's all about trying to get ahead of your competition. Get there first. Be the first one. And with yard sales, a lot of times too, these buyers, I don't recommend doing this unless you're already going to buy something and you've spoken with them. But I've heard lots of stories of people say, I came in, they had a little bit of jewelry and I was interested in 2 or 3 pieces. And I went up to sell them and say, yeah, I buy and sell. I'm interested in all kinds of small things like jewelry, watches, this and that. Do you happen to have anything else that maybe you didn't think to bring out? But I'm here and I would probably be interested. And they'll go inside and bring out a bunch of pocket watches or whatever else, something else that they didn't consider selling, but they know how they have a buyer. And I've heard lots of stories of people walking away with stuff that wasn't even out simply because they asked. So that might be, that's not something I do usually because again, it's just I don't want to make a person uncomfortable. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Yeah. I leave things on the table, I'm sure, like good deals, because like I said in the beginning of this episode, it goes through my whole life. There are some things I just don't personally do. And usually it comes down to relational reasons, interpersonal things between people that I don't want to go there. But other people do. It's not that it's wrong. So if you want to do these yard sales, people, go, or these outdoor things, get there super early. Make sure you bring flashlights. Make sure you bring cash because they're not going to take anything else. A lot of times they want cash. And I don't know, just use your gut. Because if something seems too good to be true, like they're selling gold coins for 30% of what they sell for online, they're just trying to make that money fast and get out. They don't even want to be there in an hour because that stuff's hot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So use your gut. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And or you need to ask a few more questions before you bite on paying for something like that. So I don't think that they're dangerous. I think that they are intriguing. They certainly can be a place you can get some good deals. It's just going to require some extra things. You're going to have to bring a lot of cash with you. Do you feel comfortable walking around with cash in an area you've never been or you're not familiar with? Do you want to get there at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and walk around? Do you want to get up that early and drive? Because if not, someone else is, and they're going to get that deal before you do. I don't know. I've had mixed results. I've found some cool things, some cool vinyl records, some stuff that's really decent value, and then I've had complete duds where I walked around and I'm like, ugh. And I've learned, by the way, and this is true of antique stores, thrift stores, anything. If I walk in and I walk down 2 or 3 aisles and the prices are pretty much all spot on or a little bit high, I leave. I don't go to the rest of the store because that time and time again, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, challenge accepted. I'm going to find that one thing in here that's worth it. No, you're not. You're not. They clearly are getting guidance from the people who are running that store to sell it, or they're just all super savvy vendors, and it's not worth my time. I'll spend an hour and a half in there, and when I'm done, I'm going to be like, dang it, I knew within 5 minutes of walking in that place that I should have left, and I didn't do it. I've learned now, again, saving time. I just got to walk out of those places and not worry about it, not regret it.
That's a valuable tool right there. There was a program, I'm sure I've referenced it on this show, but because I've always been fascinated by it, with IBM started this program called Getting to Know, where they realized
Getting to know you? Getting to learn all about you?
Exactly. I think that's from The King and I, isn't it? Anyway.
I don't know. I sang it in elementary school.
I believe it's from The King.
Elementary school music class.
We're big on the show tunes in our family. I have a 9-year-old, and she's very much into it. I'm pretty sure that's from The King and I. Anyway, But this getting to know was the idea. They realized that so many of their salespeople would spend, so much time trying to get these people that were never going to buy from them, and they would spend more time with them than anybody else. And IBM realized, no, you've got to get to know as quickly as possible. That's the win. It sounds counterintuitive to trying to sell something or buy something, but if you walk in and you go, nope, on the outside chance that you might get that one thing, you're going to miss out on so many other things. So that is a really, really valuable tool in any bit. Where are you spending your time? Because you only have so much of it. And, another thing about that is that this show is not for the horse trader. We are not here to help the horse trader. There are people out there that are moving and grooving, shaking, making deals. That's not what we are. We're not here for that. If that's who you are, I'm sure there's a YouTube channel out there for you, because in a sense, there's a very fine line of that type of person between criminal behavior and not criminal behavior. Like
and I mean, I want to clarify. I don't, some of these tactics are fine. I just personally don't do them for my own reasons, and that's fine. But I do tend to find that the people who do engage in some of those strategies tend to also be the kind of people that rub vendors and salespeople the wrong way, which has given the term reseller a bad name. And that's why I don't like the term reseller, because I'm no different than Guitar Center or any of these places, Ross, TJ Maxx. That is me. I'm just not paying for a large brick and mortar store. I'm finding through my own connections items that I can buy at a cheaper price, and I'm turning around and selling them to someone who wants them for a price that is more in line with today's value, the general value of it. Yeah. That's what everyone else is doing. No one's calling them resellers and hating. Like, people go there because they want a deal. That's why people go to eBay. Yeah. They want a deal, and that's where I sell most of my stuff. I don't love eBay. They just have the largest marketplace, so it's hard to leave with us, and I'm frustrated with them right now. But
that's a whole nother episode.
It's a whole other episode, but because there's a lot of things within their system I can't control, and they're not very forthcoming with information or speed at helping. So I'll leave that there.
You are an aftermarket merchant.
I am.
That's what you are. Aftermarket merchant.
I don't produce the things that I sell. Someone else produces them. I find them, and then I buy them and sell them.
Well, you also refurbish things. I do.
I repair things.
There's something
really
important to be recognized, though, that people that are really good at refurbishing, we've talked about Sweetwater. I love this company, Sweetwater. And they have this marketplace for people that want to sell equipment, gear. So Matt and I are gearheads. We like to own stuff that sounds good and looks good. And you can buy this. Nobody's calling the people that are selling their secondhand gear terrible people.
Sure.
That leads me to the second question it's not really about flea markets, but more what we would call them out west, swaps.
Yeah.
So every year in the late spring, typically, or maybe sometimes middle spring, whatever, there would be ski swaps, where different ski places would get together and they'd sell last year's skis and gear, and you could get incredible deals. I don't think I've ever bought a brand new pair of skis. I think I've always bought them at swaps. They're brand new. You're just paying less for them. Do you ever go to swaps? Do you ever do something like that?
No, the closest thing to something like that is for what I do is just through communicating with people, finding people who buy certain categories or certain types of things, so that when I come across it, I may not have to go through the trouble of selling on an eBay someplace. I may just contact that person and say, hey, I've got I met somebody just the other day, and they collect Limoges branded, like little jewelry boxes and things. You may or may not. They're porcelain. They usually have enamel paint on them, like gold leaf or blue, cobalt blue, and a little picture. They collect those. And I was like, I've got 2 or 3 of those at home. She's like, can I get your number? And we swap numbers, and now I can contact her, and I don't have to wait for months for that to sell on eBay. I got somebody who's going to come and get that from me locally. So that's the closest thing to something like that. Although you can sometimes find people who will trade. I have, quote unquote, purchased things on Facebook Marketplace before through trade or half trade. So a few years ago, I was living in Arkansas, and I saw this really nice Gibson guitar on Marketplace that I wanted. And I contacted the person and I said, I'm very interested in this. And we started talking. I said, I was still selling at that point, not full time, but part time. I was like, I've got a few other instruments. I've got some other things. Is there anything that you're needing? Because I might have it. And I had this laptop. It wasn't all that old, but I didn't need to use it anymore. I swapped that laptop and a couple of other things, and I think I only paid like $200 after the fact. And I got this guitar. Now I have a warehouse, my basement, full of thousands of things in all kinds of categories. So if I reach out and I'm interested in buying something, now I will say, I buy and sell things for a living. I've got a lot of stuff. Are you interested in anything? Because I may have a lot of trading power at this point, and knowing what I've paid for the items I'm willing to barter means a lot of the things they might be interested in getting from me, I might have nothing in anymore because I bought them in a lot of things. I've already sold enough to get my money back. So I might be trading 8 or 10 things or 5, whatever it is. And I'm basically they have value, right? They have real value. I could sell them, but they haven't sold yet. And I have no money. So if they're worth $500, that's a big difference between handing $500 cash to somebody, because it's almost like it costs me nothing at this point to get to do that. So that's what's nice. You're muted still.
Darn it. That's awesome. So we've once again, we've just pontificated away.
All right, it's time to start. Time to start the episode now.
That's right. I forgot to hit record. Hey, can you tell us what you sold this week?
Yeah, I've sold a lot of things. The floor underneath of me is littered with stuff that I have paid for the labels. I just haven't put it in the packaging yet. But I've selected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things today. And the reason I picked these is not because they're the most valuable things that I've sold, but because they're all things that most people probably would see and think, that's not worth anything. Like, that's the kind of thing I would just throw away, right? Okay, so the first thing is this little vintage, it's just a little cardboard box, and it says Keen Cutter pocket knives. So it's an old box that would have held a few smaller folding pocket knives. Okay, it's empty. It has no pocket knives in it. It's just the little box. And this box sold for $32.
Whoa, why?
If somebody collects vintage, maybe they collect things that are just from Keen Cutter. Maybe they collect cutlery from St. Louis, which is where this was made. Maybe they have some Keen Cutter pocket knives, and they want to be able to put them in an original package to increase the value of the collection.
How old is that box?
I'm looking to see if there's a date on it. I don't actually know. I would have to do a little bit of research, but my guess is this is from, maybe the 1920s, 1930s, something like that.
All the Keen collectors out there right now are going,
they're salivating.
That's a Keen Cutter 73.
Exactly.
That's the infamous Keen Cutter 73.
That's right. And I didn't even know.
It's been missing for 90 years.
That's worth $10,000. Right. Okay, the next thing is this little, and maybe you've even seen things like this, Brandon. It's this little brass, it's shaped like almost like a miniature goblet, or it's like a candle holder.
Yeah, it's like a goblet, right? Yeah.
It's but it's small, it's brass. On the bottom says India. And so thrift stores, Goodwills are littered with these. I mean, across the country, littered with these made in India brass tabletop items. They can be spoons and forks, they can be goblets, they can be candle holders, they can be pitchers, they can be gravy boats, they can be little genie lamp looking things, all kinds of stuff. And usually they're only selling, if it's a local kind of tiny thrift shop, you could maybe get it for 10 cents, some of these things. If it's a Goodwill, it's probably going to be $2 or $3. But these things sell. This little thing sold for $14.
Nice.
I probably got it in a lot. I've had it a while. Probably got it in a lot. I don't think I have anything in it anymore. And I checked on eBay just before getting on here to talk about it, and there was a collection of 50 things like this. They're all kind of different shapes, different sizes, but there were 50 pieces, right? And it sold for $400. So do the math on that. If you were paying, $3 a piece or something like that, and you had 50. That's what is that? It's $150, right? That you spent. You could turn that $150 into $400.
Right.
If you're paying 10 cents a piece for them, wait until you have 20 or 30 and then sell it, you're maybe 30 or 40 bucks in, sell it for $200, $250. These things are everywhere. Now, I don't know why people are buying these. I don't know if they can reuse
Because
this
everybody
brass
needs a
somehow.
good gravy boat, Matt.
I guess, yeah. You polish it up, it looks okay. But these were tourist items. These were little knickknacks. These were made, or these were like export items sent to the U.S. But if you see these little brass things, almost certainly, if you turn that thing upside down, it's either going to be in the metal, or oftentimes there's a little sticker that says "Made in India" or you'll see the outline where a sticker used to be, because there's some of that residue from the glue is still there. And it was a "Made in India" sticker. That's what it was. So they are still selling. Don't pitch that. Don't say, nobody wants that. Nobody cares. Most people just donate it, right? They donate it to the Goodwill, and that's where someone like me buys it. Okay, next up are these two old, probably 60s, between the 50s and 60s, little knives. One is just almost looks like a little butter knife, like a spreader type of a knife, but it looks like horn, like an antler, but it's not. It's actually a resin, like a plastic that was made to look like that. But then the other one, which was at one time a folding knife, is made of antler, the handle, but it's so rusted and bound up that you can't even fold it anymore. The tip on it is a little bit broken, and it has the remnants of like white paint, where someone has used this to kind of do some sort of job that involved paint. The point is, they don't fold. They're not good condition. They're old. This is the kind of thing that it's not sharp, probably just pitch in the trash. But these two sold for $28.
Nice.
It's the kind of thing you could find in a drawer in a family member or a grandparent's, garage. And they don't care. It's been in there. No one's using it anymore. Turn that into money. Another one is an old lock. This says B&O department. B&O, it's a Yale lock, but it says B&O CTRY division. It's a Yale lock, but this is a railroad lock. It would have been used in the rail yard. It doesn't even have a key. It's brass, but it's terribly scratched and dinged up. I put this up for $75, and it sold the day I put it up, which means probably put it up for too little. Should have put it up for a little bit more. But old locks that are locked, you can't open, and you don't have the key, it doesn't mean they're worthless. The type of lock matters, but it could be worth quite a bit of money. So don't pitch those, don't donate them. Locks are one of those categories that has a really high sell-through rate on eBay. They sell, there's a lot for sale, but a lot of the ones that are available sell every month. Another set of items is a small lot, and these are tiny little hair pins that are from like the Victorian era, so late 1800s, early 1900s. They were just made to stick in your hair, just to hold your hair back on the side or wherever. They're gold filled, but these three together probably weigh 4 grams or less. But these three sold for $30.
Nice.
And it's kind of thing where no one really wears this anymore. This is probably something that a person collects, or they do something with them, polish them up, jewelry. It's not enough to really scrap it and get gold out of it. People who do that buy them in larger quantities. But something like that, it still has value, even if it's old and no one's using that kind of thing. Last one up here is a small watch, like a wristwatch. It's older, and it features Mickey Mouse, and the hands are his arms and hands. And so as the clock moves, his hands and fingers point to the time. This particular one has no wristband. It's in bad shape. The little second hand at the bottom is missing. It's either fallen off inside of there or it's completely gone. And it also doesn't wind. It's an automatic, but it doesn't work. The point is, this has got a lot of things against it. It's the kind of thing that you would probably see and say, kind of interesting, but nobody will want that. I don't even donate it. It doesn't work. Someone paid $35 for this. They're going to work on it. They're going to fix it. They're going to put a band on it. They're going to clean it up, and they're going to either keep it as a collector item or they're going to resell it. I almost guarantee you.
Yeah, I can imagine that if you made that thing work again, put a nice band on it, it would be worth a fair amount of money.
Sure.
That's a cool
You can
looking
know that it does, because if you were to look that same one up and look at sold items, they have sold ones in working condition and good condition for more money. I just don't personally repair wristwatches. I just don't have the skill set or the tools to do that. So whenever I buy and sell, and I sell a lot of watches, pocket watches and wristwatches, if it doesn't work or I'm not confident that it works well, I put untested or I put for parts or repair only. If I wind an automatic and it's running, I'll say it's running. However, I have not tested its accuracy over time. So I want people to know that I'm not trying to mislead them if they get it and say, yeah, I mean, it works, but it's an hour, every 6 hours it gets off by 15 minutes. Well, I don't have the time to sit and watch dozens of watches and keep track of that kind of thing. So I just put it up and I say untested or,
Hey,
yeah.
well, I want to ask you this question. I keep forgetting to ask you this, but it sort of falls into that category of not working, untested. We have an Instapot that I know has a heating element that went bad. And I looked for the heating element, and I think you can buy them out there, but I'm like, man, I just bought a new Instapot, right?
Okay.
But it was like $100 we bought it. It's like 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you would put up on eBay to sell, or you just donate it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Like if you got on and said, for parts or heating element just went out, then someone else might have one that the heating element works, but the switch or doesn't work, or maybe the lid doesn't seal correctly anymore, so it doesn't hold that pressure. So yeah, I mean, they might just say, oh, okay, well, I can pay $20 for this and then go pay $20 or $10 for a heating element and then put it together. I mean, that could apply to anything. If you have something like an old radio or an old something and you plug it in, or you turn the switch, or it's an old lamp and it's got the really old plug, and you're like, it doesn't work. Well, those can be rewired. So
right.
You can put a new cord in that. You can put a lot of stuff can be fixed. A lot of people out there buy things damaged because they have the skill set to fix it. They know it'll be worth more, and it's a hobby. It's fun for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely you can sell things that are damaged.
Like our friend Dave, who fixes watches. He's going to fix my pocket watch.
Yeah, he fixes pocket watches for me.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he just loves doing it. He does. It's something really fascinating to him. All right, well, we are up against time. I don't know how we did it, but somehow we did it.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to fill up
long-winded,
more than 45 minutes, long-winded. We'll try to edit a lot of myself out. But anyway, remember, folks, we really appreciate you listening. If you skip the first part, just know that we care about you. We want everybody to do well. Remember to follow, like, and subscribe if you get a chance. Tell a friend. Helps us out. Right? I mean, we're trying to grow this show. We are growing, but we need your help. So do us a solid. Let somebody know if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then, just stop listening. But if you do enjoy it, tell somebody else. And otherwise, we will be back with a brand new show next week. Any last thoughts, Matt?
Yeah. When you're thinking about whether or not you should write a review or send an email or something, I want you to just picture me laying in bed at night with just like tears kind of in the corner of my eyes. And I'm kind of like sniffing and just wishing you would commit.
Oh,
you
God,
would pull
help
the
out
trigger
Cousin
on
Rusty.
that. That's
Cousin
right.
Rusty's in need. He's in need out there, brothers and sisters.
That's
he needs
right.
your help.
Don't make me cry, people.
Don't make Cousin Rusty cry. Anyway, everybody have a great week. We'll be back
Yes.
with a brand new show next week. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.